is this a follow-on from yesterday's Excel, or is this the same
Yes, that's a
session?
follow-on. So it's a
A
different
follow-on.
section today. It's so we're going to be working on functions and formulas. So lovely, lovely calculations, which is my favorite, on Excel, and sharing you some tips and tricks with these today. The sessions yesterday were recorded. It was working with large worksheets, large amounts of data yesterday. And it is recorded, and it will be on the website or on the YouTube channel if you want to re-watch it. Just for those who are joining us now, who maybe weren't at the session, the first word session this morning, just to say that there were quite a lot of questions in the chat yesterday, which is great, and happy with that. This is only a half-hour session, so I am going to be flying through different tips and tricks just to help you get as many as you can in the session. And then any other questions which are in the chat, I'm downloading those and going through them. I'm going to do a mop-up session tomorrow morning on Excel and PowerPoint, and hopefully be able to answer a lot of those questions from yesterday's session there. If there is a lot of demand for maybe doing another session on something, I'm happy to run that as a follow-up to Future Skills Week, but sure, we can, we'll be able to sort that out later on, okay? Because I know there's people that wanted to attend and then weren't able to make it for one reason or another. So, and also I think there's a lot of people with a lot of questions that we just didn't get time for during the session, okay? So, but that's okay, because Microsoft is a monster. There is a lot of stuff in it to go through, and you couldn't possibly teach it all in a month, never mind half an hour. So I'm doing my best here. But yes, thanks for the introduction. I'm going to just share my screen here now, if I can find the right one. Okay, so yeah, that's me now. Okay, so we are going to look at Excel today, and the first I suppose the first thing I want to just go through with you all is people do ask me quite a lot about what's the difference between a formula and a function, how do you set up a formula, all that kind of stuff. So I think the best thing to do is just to give you a few rules and tips about using calculations in Excel. So number one, quite easy, always start with an equal sign and pop the equal sign into the cell where you want to show the answer. Now, that does not necessarily have to be immediately under or beside the data you're using. It can be anywhere on the spreadsheet. In fact, it can even be on another worksheet. Okay, so always start with an equal sign in the cell where you want to display the answer. The next bit is just basic maths, really. You have to tell Excel which part of the calculation to do first. And to do that, use brackets. So pop brackets around the part of the calculation that needs to be done before the rest of the formula, okay? And that particularly applies, if you're adding up a lot of numbers and then dividing or something like that. If you don't put the brackets around the parts that are to be added first and then put a divide sign in, then it'll just divide the last number that it's beside. So just make sure you do that. Always, and I did put in as far as possible, but I'm kind of regretting doing that, but always use cell references. There may be the very occasional time where in a calculation you will type in a number, but that's very exceptional. In Excel, you always use cell references in place of the actual data for your calculations. And the reason for that is quite simple. If your data changes, it doesn't matter, because your formula, your function will automatically calculate the answer with the new data in those cells. If you only use the data and the data changes in your table somewhere else, then your answer in your calculation won't change, you know. So always use cell references. So cell reference, you should know, is the column letter followed by the row number, like A1 or D43, something like that. In a formula, then you'll use the symbols, the plus symbol, the dash is, plus is for add, obviously, dash is for minus, subtract, the forward slash is for divide, and the asterisk is for multiply. So those are your operators to do your calculations. Now here's another one that is commonly misused or not understood, and I see this quite a lot. If you need to use one particular piece of data over and over and over again in a formula or a function which goes down a range of cells, a formula, sorry, it goes down a range of cells or across a range of cells, you do not need to put in a row or a column with that one piece of data over and over and over again to make your calculation. It just needs to be in one cell somewhere on the spreadsheet, and then you use a $sign in front of the column letter and the row number to lock that data in as you drag it down the cells. Now, that sounds a bit complicated, so I am going to demonstrate this now, just immediately after this slide, just to show you what I mean by that. But it is very cool, it's very good. And final point on basic rules of calculations. Now, there's lots of rules, but these are the main ones. Understand what data you need to use in order to obtain the end result that you need to show. Okay, so you've got to decide what it is that you're wanting to do. That will help you determine what data you need to use, and it will also determine what the correct calculation is. Okay, now I'm going to switch to my Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So let's have a quick look at this $sign malarkey that I was talking about. So we've got some employee data here. We've got their names, and those who were at my session yesterday saw the really cool way of being able to split the first name, surname in one column into two columns. Does anybody, who was at my session yesterday, does anybody remember what you do to do that, or what the name of the thing is? Nobody. Oh dear. Okay. Well, that's in data, and it's text to columns. It's that wee button there, which is really cool. Okay. But anyway, we'll go back to this $sign, and it's called an absolute cell reference. And that just means that the cell reference does not change when you copy it down a range of cells, which is quite cool. So we see that they've got salaries, they've got monthly salaries, and there's a column here for commission. Okay, so we need to calculate what these boys earn in commission. I don't think they need any commission. They seem to be on high enough salaries, to be honest. But anyway, so let's give them a commission rate of, let's be generous today. We're halfway through the week. We'll give them a commission rate of 20%. Okay. Now, instead of doing your calculation here to multiply their annual salary by 20% that you normally would do, we're going to use cell C2 as part of the calculation. So I'm going to pop in equals. I'm going to pop in the cell reference D5 for the annual salary. We're just starting with the first person in the list here. And then I'm going to put in a multiply sign. And then I'm going to pop in my commission rate, which is located in cell C2. Now, at the minute, if I just hit enter, that works out the commission. Okay, I'm just going to change this to currency. Okay, that's great. But if I then copy that formula down the cells, can you see that it gives me error messages? And the reason for that is when I click in to these cells and look at the formula up here, it has changed C2 to C4. Well, that's daft because C4 is text, so that's not going to work. Okay, so what we need to do is say, well, when I copy this down, I do want you to copy D5 to D6, D7, D8. That's fine, but I want you to use C2 all the time. So to do that, here's a really quick way of putting your dollar signs in. Click into C2 in the formula bar and use your function 4, F4 button on your keyboard, and that pops dollar signs in to both before the letter and before the row number. Okay, same answer. Now, as if by magic, when I pull this down, that pops in all of the commissions. Okay, so now when I click into any of these cells, you can see it has taken D12, which is correct. I'm in row 12, but it has still taken the reference or the data from C2. Okay. The brilliant thing about this is, and this is something that you will probably be using in the workplace, because there will be times when you'll be asked to perform certain calculations, and there'll be maybe certain rates of interest or things like that there that need to be applied to a set of data. And if the rate changes, so say for instance we go, no, actually these guys are not worth the 20% commission, we're going to change the commission to 10. This means I only have to change it in one cell. So when I change that to 10%, watch the commission amounts, and they all automatically change. Okay, like that one? Give me a thumbs up. Easy peasy. Okay, so that's the absolute cell reference. All right. Now, we are going to flick back here, and we've done the first slide. Okay, so next rule then is functions versus formulas. Can you all see that slide? Is that okay, Rachel? You see that okay?
Yeah, I can see that, Jackie.
Cool, brilliant. So as I said before, a formula contains operators. So we've already done that. We've used the asterisk for multiply. What's the difference between a formula and a function? Well, a function is a complex formula or a logical test, just for example, which is represented by a word. For instance, sum, average, countif, if. There's a whole myriad of functions. I don't know half of them. I don't know most of them, because you only really use the functions that perform the calculations that you will use on a day-to-day basis with the data that you work with. So if you're an engineer or a statistician or somebody like that, there will be specific formulas or functions that will be applicable to the work that you do and the sector you work in. And there are absolutely hundreds of them. Okay. The rule of thumb with functions is you obviously put in your equal sign, you put in the word that represents the function, and then you immediately put in open brackets. Okay, always put in open brackets. And then you'll either start putting in the cell references that you're prompted to put in to perform the function, or in some cases, you can actually put in another function name and then open brackets and then your cell references. So it's like a function within a function. So you're like performing a bit of a calculation first on a set of data before you then perform the rest of the calculation with a different function. Now that's getting very complex, so I don't want to completely fry your heads this morning. But the most common one that you'll be using is probably the sum function. And I mean, sum is just basically add stuff up. That's it. All right. And one of the most common errors I find and things that I see is people are trying to perform just put in a normal formula. And for some reason, they have it in their head, they have to start with equals sum. open brackets, and then they multiply stuff. And I'm like, okay, so what is it you're adding here? Oh, not adding anything. Right, well, if you're not adding anything up, why are you using sum? I don't know. I just thought you had to put sum in. So sum is a function to add stuff up. And if you're going to just multiply things, you don't need to put sum in. So that's just one of my wee pet hates. Just ignore me, okay? Now, if you are putting in a function that you don't really know how to use, you will get, Excel will give you tips on how to use it. Oh. Okay, so for instance, in here, and this is a perfect time to demonstrate the if statement. So hopefully we have time to do all of this. Yeah, okay, I'm going to do this really quickly. So the if statement is something that the if statement is something that is a logical test. So what you're doing is you're wanting to test some data, and you're going to say, if that data meets certain criteria, I want you to display this or do this. If it doesn't, do something else. Okay, so it's just a logical test. What I'm going to do in here is I want to figure out if these bios are eligible or exempt from higher rate tax, and I'm going to set the criteria at 50,000. Okay, so I'm going to say if you earn less than 50,000, you are exempt. If you earn more than 50,000, then no, you're not exempt. So my answer in the box, this is where you need to think about what you want to display before you start your calculation, is going to be yes or no. All right, it's as easy as that. That's what we're going to display. So we start with equals, and then I'm going to pop in if, and what's comes next? What comes after a function name?
Brackets.
Yay! Well done. Okay. So this is what I was wanting to, well done, Jarlath, thank you. This is what I was wanting to show you. Excel, if you're not quite sure what you're doing, Excel will guide you. So you can see here, it's going if, and when you open the brackets, it says, okay, the first part you have to say is the logical test. Okay, so what I want to say is if, and you always start with cell reference, D5 is more than, so I'm going to put in my greater than symbol. And this is one of the times you can put in a number, okay? I'm going to put in 50,000, all right? The next thing you put in, and this is what you always use in a function calculation, always use either a comma to separate out your values, or if it's a range of cells and you want to include everything in between, it will be a colon to separate your first and your last cell reference, and it will take everything in between, okay? But I'm going to do comma. It's asking me to put in the value of true. Now, if it's text you want to display, you always use your quote marks, your double quote marks. And I'm going to say yes and close my quote marks. So that's my value. If D5 is over 50,000, I want, sorry, no, the answer is no. No, they're not eligible for exemption from tax, okay? Higher rate tax. So the answer is no. Then a comma, the value of false. So if they're less than 50,000, the answer is yes, they are exempt. And to finish off our function, we close the brackets to tell Excel, that's it, we're done. You can now perform the calculation. Hit enter, and the first one comes up no, which is correct because it's over 50,000. So all we need to do, instead of putting this in over and over again, is just to pull the formula, the function down, and it automatically tests each of the corresponding cells to say whether they are eligible or for exemption or not. Now, that's quite cool, isn't it? Yeah. So that's about just one example. I mean, you can do so much with an if statement. You can do if nested ifs. You can do if this is this, but if this is this, but if this is this. And it's literally, I think I've done an if statement with about maybe 6 arguments inside it, if, and it is so cool. Okay, sorry, I get very excited about this. I'm a wee bit of an Excel geek. So that's another thing that you can do. Just keeping an eye on my time, Rachel. You just shout at me if I need to be winding up.
Well, we have 3 minutes left officially, Jackie.
Oh, so many things I want to teach you.
I know.
I know.
I
Right, I'm
don't
going
want
to teach this one
to cut
last.
you
This
off.
one. I'm going to teach you this one last cool function, and then I'm going to go to my slide with my quick tips and things. But I will send the slides out, so you'll have those. Okay. So this is another brilliant one. So say, for instance, this is very short amount of data, but say that data went down to row 1000 or 2000 or something like that. Okay. What if you wanted to go and find somebody and what they got earned? Yes, you could do your filters and blah, blah, blah. But wouldn't it be great to be able just to put in the employee name and have the monthly pay come up in a little cell box at the top? So to do this, we're going to do equals, and we're going to do X lookup. So this is quite a cool wee function. And we're going to say, what's the lookup value? Well, we're going to type the name into this cell here, G2. So the lookup value will be G2, whatever we happen to type in there, comma, lookup array. Well, we're going to type in, let's just do the surname, okay? If the two names, this is the one time where having the first name, surname in the one column would actually be better, okay? But because I've already split the data, I don't have time to put it back again. So let's choose this range that we're going to look up, okay? Now it says, what do you want to return? Well, I want to return what their monthly salary is. So I'm going to choose this array of data for the return, okay? And close brackets, that's it. Don't need to do anything else, and hit enter. So at the minute it's hitting not applicable because there's nothing in here. So if I put in the name Millen and hit enter, it has given me it has looked up his monthly salary. And as you can see, that is correct. Now I have to put that into currency, and there we go. Okay. If we put in cats, because I like the name and I like cats, there we go, cats, and is the salary right? Yes, it is. Isn't that cool? So XLOOKUP is a super duper wee function for quickly finding some data that in a very, 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 very big worksheet. Okay. Right, last thing I'm going to share with you today then. I did have other stuff, but we're kind of running out of time. So we'll maybe pick up the bits that didn't get covered today. We'll pick those up tomorrow morning, or sorry, Friday morning, at our session on Friday morning. So the last bit I want to share with you is, yes, the handy functions and shortcuts. So these are a few that I have picked out that you may not know about that are very cool. Okay, so one of them is to insert today's date just in any cell, hit the control key and the semicolon. Okay, and that will bring up, if you have an Excel sheet open in the background, why not have a go and see if it works? It is very cool. It puts in today's date. Okay, if you want to put in the current time, hit your control plus your shift key and the semicolon and hit enter, and it will bring up the time. Okay, does that work for everybody? Have you tried that? Yeah, Tara's nodding her head, so that means it must work. Another one is to calculate the number of days. Now this is something that is handy to use. To calculate the number of days between two dates, the formula is equals days, open brackets, and it will be the reference for where your end date is, comma, cell reference for where your start date is, close brackets, and that's it. Okay. To join text into two cells, into one cell, it's equals the cell reference where one part of the text is, and then the and symbol. And this is the important bit. If you need a space between the two cell references, you need to put in double quote marks, space bar, double quote marks, and symbol, and then the next cell reference. And what that will do is it will join the text from two different cells into one cell. So that's actually, it's nearly like undoing what we did with yesterday with splitting the text into two columns. We did the lookup function there now, and then the other one is data validation to quickly and accurately input repetitive data. I don't think we've, well, maybe is everybody okay for another 2 minutes to show you this?
Yeah, guys, if anybody needs to leave for a session at 10,
please
feel
fly
free,
on.
off you go. The recordings will be put up on the YouTube channel and the website. And if you don't need to head off for 10, stay on.
Yeah, I'm just going to show you
Jackie.
this. Yeah, I'm going to show you this one last thing, and that's data validation. So, for instance, if you can see here that these city names have been repeated quite a lot, and there only seem to be 3 of them. So instead of, say, we're getting more employees, instead of having to type these in every single time, why not create a little drop-down list? It also makes sure, and this is so important in Excel, that your data is accurate and there's no typos, and somebody hasn't typed in Edinburgh without the U, because what happens then is that causes all sorts of problems down the line when you're trying to get, Rachel's nodding her head, she knows about this, when you're trying to get data out again and there's somebody's made a typo. So what you can do is you can turn these into drop downs. All right, so for instance, over here, I'm just going to type in London, Edinburgh, and Belfast. Okay, all right. And what I want to do is change these into drop downs. All right, so I'm going to go to, sorry, I've just realized my Teams bar is sitting on top of the menu I need to get. Well, there it is there, and that's okay. So I'm going to go to data, and over on, just trying to find the right one, there it is. Over on the right hand side in data tools, there's a little button called data validation. So when I click that and click on data validation, it'll say, what kind of validation criteria have you? Well, when I click on allow, I'm going to choose a list. Okay. And then it's going to ask me, well, where is your list? All right. So my list is here. That's it. It's just those 3 things. Okay. So M5 to M7. And can you see that it has automatically made those absolute cell references? So it's locking those in. It's always going to refer to those cells. All right. What you can do if you're very particular is you can type an input message. So when the person clicks on the cell, you know, it'll say, please only choose from the drop-down menu or something like that if you want. And you can also put in an error alert. So if somebody tries to type in Dublin, for instance, you can then put in an error message and say, this is not one of the, you know, parameters, or you must choose from the drop-down menu, or whatever it is. Okay, I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to hit OK. What that does is it then creates a little drop-down, and you can see when you click on it, hey presto, you've got London, Edinburgh, and Belfast to choose from. So I'm going to say Anthony has now been relocated to Belfast. So I'm going to change from London to Belfast. Okay. And then you can see that when I move down, the next cell doesn't have the data validation because I haven't selected. I haven't converted it to data validation. So I'm going to just pull that down. Now it's changed them all to Belfast because that's the one that I had put in. All right. So the tip I'm telling you to do here is when you're doing data validation, if you've already got a list in, it's probably as well to select the whole list and then do data validation, do your list, get your source, and apply it to all cells before you start the process. Okay, and that means it allows you then to change any of those names or any of those things to something else. All right. And then you can just pull that on down, and again you can include more data validation down here and so on and so forth. Okay, but probably the best thing to do is, if you know that you're going to have to input the same information over and over and over again, then the best thing to do is just set your whole column up as data validation at the very start. The other thing I would say is, say for instance Dublin did get added to the list, that's okay. You can pop Dublin in there, and then all you need to do is select your data validation cells, go to data validation and change your source, and change it down to include Dublin, and hit OK. And it means now if we click on one of the cells, Dublin now comes up on the list. And that is the last tip for today. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for staying on, and I hope that this was really useful.
So useful, Jackie. Thank you so much. These digital boosts are absolutely brilliant. We've two more tomorrow morning. We have Office 365, that whole suite of apps, which is an absolute essential, a must for people starting into the workplace. So do attend that. We've also Outlook tomorrow. Again, it's very essential. And then on Friday, let's see, we've Excel. So a bit of a continuation of today, Jackie.
A bit of a mop up on the stuff we didn't get covered, and the same with PowerPoint then.
PowerPoint on Friday too. Brilliant. So just a couple of things, guys. Tomorrow, if you didn't catch Norman's promo earlier, we've got the Northern Ireland ladies football team doing a session for us tomorrow afternoon. So we're really excited about that. They'll be discussing their journey, the challenges, the setbacks on their way to reaching the Euro finals in 2022. So do sign up for that. A couple of great sessions later on today. We've got the Entrepreneur Factor with Leo Mullen. Actually, that's happening at 10:30.
And I'm hosting and you're in that one.
Yeah, so brilliant. That's all about.
Way, can I just say on that one, you see the feedback from Monday on those entrepreneur and business idea sessions. We had real life entrepreneurs in. Amazing feedback. The students loved it. So if you haven't booked in, you can still come.
Yeah, still go 10:30, and not just for those who want to start their own business, for everybody. You know, enterprise entrepreneurship skills, they are a must for people searching for placements or graduate jobs. We've also got what else? We've got Anne Orr with Press Play on Get Work Ready. That session is later on today. So that's all about joining the workplace, contributing to meetings, putting your ideas forward, just communicating in teams. So again, really, really essential. Something I wish I had whenever I was starting out in my career journey, and could still do with it now. So I'll be joining that session later on today. I think that's everything. I'm going to stop recording now. This will be available on the website. It'll also be available on the YouTube channel. And yeah, head on. Feel free, if you were due to start a session at 10, you can join late. The links are all there on the website. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Enjoy day 3 of Future Skills Week, and no doubt I'll be seeing you along the way. Okay, thanks very much, Jackie. Absolutely brilliant. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.